In today's video, I want to talk about how to read the data on your Tesla Powerwall app so that you can manipulate power and get free electricity. Let's talk about it. Okay, to find this data, what you want to do is go to your Tesla app so that you can pull up your Powerwall. Okay. Once you pull up the app, you're going to see the animation that shows your solar, your home, and what's going on with your Powerwall. Are you using energy from your Powerwall, your solar, pull into the grid, send into the grid? Underneath the animation, you'll see these options that say energy impact settings, yada, yada. We're only interested in the energy setting right now. So select the energy. And on this screen, what it does is it divides up data in each section, such as right here, the Powerwall discharge. It will also show your solar, how much solar generation that you're producing, when it starts and when it ends and when it peaks. The next option, you'll see the house. It'll say your home usage. But the two that I look at to really determine how to use the Powerwalls to manipulate power, either buying or selling or discharging, what I do is I look at the little icon with the net grid use or the electric tower at the top right. And then if you scroll down, you'll see that download data. So click that download data and then email that to yourself. The next one you want to do is the little Powerwall to your left. Same thing. You'll scroll down, you'll click that download data and email that to yourself. Now let's open that data and look at it. This is the first data sheet that we're going to look at, and this is your Tesla Powerwall data sheet. What I've done is I've gone in and color-coded the Excel spreadsheet so we can see at what time of use time that I'm using from the Powerwall. So I've got super off-peak, and peak. So the super off-peak is in green. This is the lowest price of electricity. Then there is the purple, which goes to off-peak. It's still pretty expensive. And then the most expensive is going to be in the red, which is going to be the peak. Then starting back at 9, it goes back to off-peak, which is still expensive, until midnight, in which super off-peak kicks in again. Now, what you want to do with this sheet is you want to see, starting at midnight, what I do is I have my Powerwalls pull power and charge from the grid. I've got 6 Tesla Powerwalls. They start charging at midnight until they are fully full. And what will happen is all of my power that I buy comes from the super off-peak time. So charging my Tesla cars, charging my Powerwalls, that power is only coming from the grid. Then starting at 6 a.m., that's when the Powerwalls turn on. They run my house for the rest of the day. And then at midnight, rinse and repeat. So what you want to do is starting at midnight, you can see right here that when my Powerwall started charging, they had 15% of power still left in them. So to charge them up, they're only going to take, they only needed to charge 85%. To charge 6 Tesla Powerwalls takes about 4 hours. Here in the first section, you can see the time right here, and it's a military time. So my house uses about between 3 and 4 kilowatts per hour. There's no solar production. The negative 20.9, that's the Powerwall charging. And then it's pulling from the grid the total. So the total is how much it's taken to charge the Powerwall and then how much it's taken to run the house, 24.7. And what you can do is you can look at every 5 minutes, it's showing you exactly what the power is doing. So in 15 minutes, it has already charged up to 21%. And you can just look at this throughout the night. And the reason you want to do this, when you get to the 100, the reason you want to do this is you want to know how long it's taking your power walls to charge fully. And that way you can do other things that use a lot of energy, such as charging your car if you have an electric car. So starting at 345, that's when we determined that that's when we need to charge the car, because you don't want to be pulling all that electricity at once, because the Tesla, as you can see right here, I had to adjust it. At first I had it charging at 330, but then I had to move it to 345 because you see this jump 2.9, the normal house usage. And then all of a sudden it jumped to 16.1. That's because I had the Tesla set to start charging at 330. Also, if you look over here, the Powerwall is pulling 11.8. So we were pulling in a total of 28 at that one particular time. Now we have two Teslas. So if we would have had another Tesla on top of that charging, that would have been up to 45. And that would have started tripping some breakers and stuff. So what I did is I readjusted this to start charging at 3:45 a.m. That's right after the Powerwall is fully charged. What happens is when the Powerwall starts to get close to charging, it'll start dialing down and take just a little bit longer to charge up that last little bit, and it's not charging at full blast. So at 3:45, I know the thing is fully charged, and it's okay to charge the car and not run that risk of starting to trip breakers. If we scroll on down, you can see it maintains at 100%, and then starting at 6 a.m. highlighted here in purple, that's when I am no longer a buyer of electricity from the grid. I am now 100% pulling power from the Powerwalls. Also, you'll notice at about 5:55, the car stops charging, because if not, when 6 a.m. kicks around, the Powerwalls kick on, the cars will drain that Powerwall. I mean, it'll just suck up that energy and it'll be gone in no time. So at 6 a.m., whatever power I was able to get, and that's why we typically charge every night, every other night, at 6 a.m., the power, we stopped charging the car. And now you'll notice I went from buy-in power, the last bit was 2.5, to 0. And this stays like this until about, you can see it at about 6:25, about around 6:30. Now the sun's coming up and you start to see this negative. Because I'm running the whole house on the Powerwall, I get to sell all of my excess solar, which is 100%, to the grid. Now, my net metering with my power company is a 1-to-1 ratio. That means if it would cost me 15 cents to buy electricity, if I sell electricity back to them, then they give me credit for that full value at 15 cents. If it's 40 cents, they give it back to me at full value, a full credit at 40 cents. And so on up to peak, which can get to 50 and 60. And this summer it's going to 81 cents. Now, as you can see, again, the Powerwall starts to come down because it's running the entire house. This is my home usage. This is how much solar I'm producing. This is how much the Powerwall is using. This is how much solar I'm selling to the grid. And again, the energy remaining in the Powerwall. And you can watch this throughout the day, and you can really pick up on your peak time as far as solar, your solar production. And again, you can see how much power my home is using, as well as how much energy is remaining in the Powerwall. If you happen to have a storm coming up, you might want to maybe decrease some of the usage in the Powerwall and save that power for like an outage, or maybe reduce some of your consumption. Again, all this negative is being sold back to the grid at full retail price. We just keep going on down to the red, and this is where it's peak. And what's really good about this data is you can also see what time you stop producing solar, so therefore selling solar to the grid. And it is at about 17:35. That's 5:35 p.m. is the last reported negative 0.1 that I'm selling to the grid. And peak starts at 4. So from 4 to 535, that's where I'm selling back to the grid at that highest price. And you can also see that the Powerwall is down to about 20% whenever 9 o'clock comes around and we come back off a peak, and now we're going into off peak. Again, pretty expensive, but still. And you can see, again, I'm pulling 0 from the grid. You know, I'm not selling solar. I'm not pulling from the grid. It's all coming from the Powerwall. And based on my energy usage on this particular day, it got all the way down. That Powerwall was able to run me all the way from 6 a.m., or those 6 Powerwalls, all the way from 6 a.m. to midnight. And we would still have around 6% left over if there's some sort of outage. Again, I've got it selected within the app that if there is some sort of power outage that's known that's coming up, then the Powerwalls will automatically recharge that back up for that emergency. But anyway, this is how I am reading this data to know how the Powerwall is working. Now what I want to do is I want to click over and show you the other data that shows the grid. Let's look at that now. This is the other data spreadsheet that Tesla Powerwall provides to you. And this is the one with the grid. And what I did on this one is it gives you almost the same information, but I added in how much it costs per kilowatt hour, depending on what time I'm buying or using power. That way you can kind of see what I'm doing here. And if you look, again, super off peak, midnight to 6 a.m., that's this green, it's 14.5 cents per kilowatt hour. And that's all the way till 6 a.m. And what I did is if you go back to the app, you can see let's go to energy. All right. And this is for the 8th that I've got over here. You can see that from the grid, I pulled 128.1. Now I know 100% that coming from the grid, I bought all of my power during super off-peak time. So I know that 128.1 multiplied by 14.5 cents is going to give me how much that electricity cost me to buy, which is $18.57. Now, going forward, starting at 6 a.m. until midnight, I am selling 100% of my power, and it's at different rates. It's at 44.8 cents. That's off peak. That's high. That's crazy, right? And then starting at 4 p.m., it jumps up to 51.1 cents. And then again, back to 44.8 cents off peak. Crazy, right? At 9 until midnight. And so because it's only given me a little bit of power from 4 p.m. until about 5:35. Usually I get 1 to 5 kilowatts at the peak price. So what I did is I just calculated, if we go back and we look at the app again, it shows you that I sent 90.3 to the grid. The one thing it doesn't do is it doesn't tell you during what time other than the spreadsheet. So what I do just to kind of guesstimate is I calculated it at 44.8 cents times the 90.3, and that's where I get negative $40.45. So although I used a lot more electricity at 15 cents, or let's just round it up to 15 cents, I sold less, but at a higher cost at, 44.8. So that's the negative 40. So I'm netting around just over, it's between negative $20 to $25 a day based on this usage on this day. Now, some days I'll produce more, I'll sell more. Sometimes it's raining, so it'll kind of offset, throughout the month. Typically what's happening is no matter what, I've got a zero power bill every month. But some months I am overproducing and I get a power bill for negative $200 or negative $300 or even up to negative $400. And it just keeps banking and rolling. And at some point in the future, I've got all this power saved up that I can use for other things. Now, you could sell this if you wanted to for back to the grid you could get the power company to buy from you your excess power and kind of cash you out once a year, called true up, but they buy it back from you at wholesale price, not this price. And wholesale price is 7 cents, 8 cents. To me, it just makes sense. Just keep banking it and using that energy throughout the year to do whatever you want, especially if you have a whole month that you don't really produce solar, you can use all that banked up power credit that you had throughout the year. So I hope this shows a little easier about how to read this data and program your power walls to really take advantage of power when it's cheap and use that power wall energy when it's expensive and sell back 100% of your solar for that zero power bill. And this is how you get free power.